So, have you ever felt like the way that you talk to yourself might be holding you back? What if I told you that some of the common phrases that we use every day are actually traps to provoke negative thoughts? OMG. We are talking about mastering your thoughts today. We're going to talk about awareness of thought patterns. Why is it important to be aware of our thought patterns? We're going to also talk about how you can practice some positive affirmations. And then we're going to wrap it up with some mindfulness and meditation as well. So I wanted to start off talking about some of these little traps that we get into. And it was kind of funny because today I was listening to a replay of a call that we had last week, and just was so fitting because one of the people on the call shared a story, and he said, "I want to create abundance." And the leader of the call would very nicely said, I there just a small shift in your words will mean a big difference to what you're saying. When you say I want, that means that you don't have it right now. And so I want will always keep it away from us. So when he said, I want to have a or create abundance, by saying he wants it, he's saying he doesn't have it right now. And the more you say that, the further away it gets from you. So just shifting those words ever so slightly will make such a big difference in how things come across. So instead of saying to I want to have abundance, he could say, or I could say something like, I would like to have abundance, or I'm working towards abundance, or the one I like the best is I will have abundance, or I do have abundance. And when we're looking at our thoughts, our mind doesn't know the difference between the tenses, and everything is in positive or is in present tense. That's the only tense that matters, is the present. So when we're thinking of these things, thinking about them in the present is actually a good thing. Here's another one that you may say, I know I say, that we tend to say, I have to. I have to go get my kids. I have to go to work. All of those are a sense of obligation or pressure, and maybe burdensome and stressful. Instead, you could say, I get to go to work, or I choose to go to work, which is a little bit more contributory and more on the positive side. A couple others I just wanted to note because they're so common is I should, or I can't. So I mean, I think I can't is pretty more obvious on the negative side than the other two. But it when you say I can't, it's really limiting your possibilities. So instead of saying I can't, do the I can, the old I think I can, or I will learn to do something. And I should is again giving a sense of obligation similar to I have to. And so you could say I could, or I prefer to do something. I should go to the doctor. Maybe instead I prefer to go to the doctor. Maybe I prefer not to go to the doctor, but put it into the positive light. Here's one that I actually get. This is one that I found in work. This is quite common, and I'm Canadian. Okay. So Canadians, sorry, I'm Canadian, so I can say this. Always say, I'm sorry. This is like the Canadian mantra, I'm sorry. But this actually is can invalidate. So if you say I'm sorry, but we always say I'm sorry. So one of the things that you can do to turn that around. And we would say, oh, I apologize, or I'm sorry that I didn't get back to you in emails. That would be at work. A better way to say it is, I thank you for your patience while you're waiting for me to get back to you, because what it does is it takes you from apologizing for something and being all apologetic to putting it on the other person that they are doing a good thing, and they're being patient with you, which is a good thing. So this is a couple of ways that you can move things to be more positive. And don't say but, because but makes it sound like you're giving excuses or something after you say I'm sorry, but if you have to say but, you're kind of negating everything you said before. So instead of saying but, you could say and. So there's a few little things there that I know I've been trapped in. And I try really hard when I say I have to, I'll try and remember, oh, I have to say I get to, or I choose to, and make that change right away so people don't realize, or sorry, that so that I catch myself. And it's practice, practice, practice. So there's just a few things that we can do with just simple words to really reframe things to be positive. And, one of the things that I love quotes is, as you think, so shall you be, which is a quote by Wayne Dyer, and also Bruce Lee said the same thing. And, how, if you're negative, you got negative stuff coming into your life. So let's switch it over to the positive. Deb, what do you think? What can you say about your
Yes.
mastering your thoughts?
Yes, I love, love, love talking about this because I feel like we have like those three main things that we talk about on changing your life, and that's your master your thinking, master your emotions, and becoming more authentic, which means really getting to know yourself and being comfortable being yourself. But mastering your thoughts, I feel like is like laying the foundation because it relates to all of the other areas. And for me, when we started this process going through EMF, um, one of the first things they have you do is kind of really become really aware of the thoughts that you're having and when you're having different thoughts. And so I became aware of like how easily I would take being criticized or something not going right, and I would automatically just kind of take it all in and then take it all on. And my mind would start going with all the negative thoughts of say like, oh, I should have done better with that. I could have done a better job there, right? I'm not doing so great in this area or that area, right? And I would just put it all on me. And yes, ultimately it is my responsibility for whatever it is that the person was talking about. But when I started to master my thoughts, whenever I do receive a criticism, instead of adding to whatever negative feeling I might have initially had, um, now when mastering my thoughts, I catch myself, like you said, we're catching ourselves now and going, oh, hold on a second. Even though I might not have handled a particular situation great and maybe it did warrant some criticism, a criticism is just an observation in the full situation, right? So I don't have to, I can listen to it because I'm sure there's a lesson there somewhere like, oh, well, maybe next time I can do this differently or do that differently. Or at least I can convey the full meaning to somebody else. Like, hey, the reason why this went that way was because da, 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 da. Not in an excuse way, but just so that we're both understanding why things went the way they did. But the change came because I don't start spiraling down anymore. I don't start beating myself up and berating myself for needing any criticism because criticism is a part of life. That's just somebody making an observation. And criticism to most of us, I think, feels so negative. And for the most part, it comes off that way, right? Like, oh, you didn't do da da da, or you could have done this better, right? And changing the thought pattern though into, okay, this time that didn't go so well. And I, instead of berating myself, I can simply just say, well, that didn't go the way I thought it would. And what can I take away from that? How can I be better prepared for next time? Like, what did that other person need in that moment that I could have provided so that the situation would have ended better? And that can be at school, it can be with your family, right? When somebody in your family gets like, what the heck is wrong with you? You're always da, 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 right? You could get all fired up right with them and be like, what do you mean me? What about you? Right? You could start that. And then later you're going to be really mad at yourself. Or you could just take a deep breath and be like, like take that moment to be like, whoa, okay, obviously they're really upset. Let me think about if I can figure out what they really need or even ask, which is even better if you can ask and then they give you an answer like, well, I needed you to clean out the cat box, the cat litter box, and you didn't. And you're like, oh my gosh, you know what? That's right. I did say I would do that. I'm so sorry I didn't. You know, I'll make sure I do it next time. Or, this came up. But you're coming from a place of trying to understand what they need instead of just defending yourself. And for me, that was the biggest thing that came out of mastering my thoughts, because when I can do that in more situations in my life, I have found that the end result is I feel better about the situation because I'm not beating myself up anymore. I just accept it for what it is. And then I'm also offering and coming from a place of love and offering somebody else the opportunity to express themselves better. So instead of becoming defensive, I'm just like, hey, I'm really sorry that happened that way and that you're upset. How can I help you? Like, how can we remedy this? Because I really didn't mean for you to feel this way or that way. So how can we fix that? So for me, mastering my thoughts in that way has made a huge impact on my life. And so I'm super excited to talk about all these topics today.
Yeah, this is really the foundation. I want to say, because mastering whatever you're mastering when it comes to our personal growth isn't always the easiest. And to me, it doesn't mean that you're perfect. It means that you are aware. And when you are aware, you can correct things. And it's like going to the gym, you can get better at it. You're not going to be perfect the first time, and build that muscle the first time, but you keep on working at it and things get better. And it's a journey. So, yeah, these are really important parts of our journey. But and also the judgment is a big thing, right? Is and really that's what you were alluding to, is not judging yourself and keeping the judgment off the table, which is really important. So,
Absolutely.
why is it that we need to be aware of our thought patterns, and why do they matter? And I have another Wayne Dyer quote that's very similar, but I love some of the
I
things
love
that he
Wayne Dyer.
says. And it was, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so, really, if we're looking at things from a positive lens, we are going to have more positive things happening to us. Like the guy on the call I was talking about, who wants more abundance. If he is putting that in a positive mindset, there's more chance that he's going to get the abundance coming to him instead of it going away from him, because he said just little things I want versus I would like to have, or I am abundant. So, very slight difference, but it makes a difference. All right. And so, imagine that your mind here, our mind is a garden, and every thought is like a seed. And some seeds are going to grow into a beautiful flower, and others are going to become, guess what? Weeds. I have lots of weeds in my garden. But if they're left unchecked, the weeds will definitely take over the garden and choke out all of the flowers. And so, awareness of your thought patterns is like tending to your garden. By identifying and pulling out those weeds, those negative thoughts, you're making room for the flowers, which are your positive thoughts, to thrive. And this is where regularly checking your garden by mindfulness and reflection, which is what you were talking about, ensures that your garden remains healthy and beautiful, which is what we want. And so, with that, what are some of the things that we need to think of when we talk about why are our thoughts important? So, number one, they are going to influence our behavior and our emotions. Our thoughts are directly going to influence our emotions and behaviors. And by becoming aware of our thought patterns, we can understand how they impact our daily life and our interactions with other people. And when it'll help us to identify those negative patterns and pull those weeds, because a lot of times if we're operating on autopilot, those negative thoughts or our limiting beliefs are actually governing our actions. And when we're aware of them, we can identify them to help remove some of those detrimental patterns. It'll help us empower ourselves and have control. So when we're aware of our thoughts, we can choose to change them, leading to more positive outcomes and a greater sense of control over our life. It's good for our mental health because if we are aware of thought patterns that are negative, so these thought patterns are going to move us and help us to recognize if we're having some anxiety, depression, or early, and stress as well. So if we can see them and be mindful to recognize them early, we can do things to create an intervention early before it spirals out of control. I talked about my anger, and one of the things with my anger when I had an anger management issue. Now, again, I never hurt anybody, but I would just get into a rage, and it was like a fuse went off. I had a long fuse, but when you got to the end of it, it was like dynamite. I just blew up. And so by recognizing when I'm starting to feel that anger or resentment or whatever it is that triggers it, to actually reframe it and move away and step away from it instead of waiting until it gets out of control. And then all bets are off. Then once you get to a certain point, you're just spiraling out of control and you're on that slippery slope. So let's get off of the slope, stay on the edge of the curve instead of going down the spiraling down into the abyss, into that black hole. It can help us to improve our relationships because, if we understand our thought patterns and our interactions, we can understand things and our interactions with others. We can be more mindful of our thoughts and how our thoughts and emotions are influencing other people. So this will help our relationships out as well. So those are some of the things that we can do to when it comes to, or some of the ways that it's going to help us to have positive thoughts. And so if you think as well of a pair of glasses that you wear, like mine, if those lenses are dirty and cracked, then everything you see will be distorted and unclear. So cleaning the lenses will help you to, is like being aware of your thought patterns, and you can see things more clearly when you are in positive thoughts. It's all about clarity. And so I have 6 tips that I'm just going to say very quickly on how you can achieve awareness of your thought patterns as we're talking. Mindfulness practice. So there's some exercises. We're going to talk more about meditation and mindfulness before we close. But having mindfulness exercises, which helps you to observe your thoughts without judgment, is a good practice. Journaling is really good. Writing down your thoughts. And, if you journal every night and you can say, today, what kind of negative thought patterns did I have? And write about them. That's a good way to be aware and help to move towards correcting them. This also helps with self-reflection. When you, again, the same thing, if you kind of, at the end of the day, look at or even anytime. What am I thinking now? Why am I thinking that? And how could I turn that around to something more positive? You could do some cognitive behavioral techniques like the CBT, which would be things like challenging your negative thoughts. Why am I thinking this? How can I reframe this more positively? You can do some mindful breathing. Breathing exercises are always good. I know sometimes when I take my dogs out for a walk, one of my dogs is is on the reactive side, and sometimes he will bark and have a hissy fit at people or dogs that are walking by. Sometimes we have a great walk, sometimes it's not so good. And I remember one time the dogs were really kind of getting on my nerves, and I was starting to feel that way. And when they get into the house, I just wanted to get in the house, but I could feel that I was getting emotional in a bad way. And so I stopped at the front door and I just closed my eyes, and I spent probably about 30 seconds just breathing to reframe everything and snap myself out of that bad energy that I could feel. The other thing you can do is track your thoughts so that you are aware, and write down when you're, not just negative thoughts, but the positives ones too. Give yourself a pat on the back when you're having positive thoughts. Yes. All right. So
I
this
mean,
is how you can practice positive thoughts. So Deb, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about practicing positive affirmations.
all right. Thanks, Debbie. I love everything you said there. It was really inspiring. Change those thoughts. So, yeah, another tool that we have is using positive affirmations. And basically, that is uplifting yourself. It's kind of like Debbie said, plant your garden. You want to not help the weeds grow, but you want your flowers to grow. And what are we going to water them with? We're going to water them with positivity. And everybody always says, like, you can't fix everything just by being positive, right? And we're not talking about like fake positive here. We're not saying to lie to yourself about what something that happened or something that you're doing. We want you to state things though in the positive, because you're more likely to get a better outcome, and you're also going to stay in a happier state of just being when you're saying things in the positive. But positive affirmations are, it's like encouraging yourself, right? We both have like those two little people on our shoulders. Some say the devil and an angel, but like the good and the bad, right? And one's going to beat you up, and that's kind of like your criticizer, and the other one's going to cheer you on, and that's your champion, right? And what you want to be doing with positive affirmations is listening more to your champion, because the champion's going to say, you did the best you could today, and we messed up a little, but we'll get it right next time. Where your criticizer or that other voice, right, is going to be like, man, you bombed. That was horrible. Period. See, you did it again, right? It's just going to keep feeding that. You have to hush that criticizer, listen to your champion, and build yourself up. And yes, it's okay to build yourself up, because listen, if you're not there for yourself, it's hard to be there for other people, because you're going back to that judgment that Debbie was mentioning from earlier. Like, if you keep judging yourself so harshly, that's all you're going to hear. And it's so much easier to absorb all this negativity in our lives and take that on, instead of just saying, I am doing my best. And if you keep focusing on all the areas where you're failing or you're making mistakes, yeah, you're going to feel horrible about yourself. But if you can take the positive affirmations, pay attention to where you are winning, pay attention to the times you do get it right, pay attention to, how am I going to handle this negative situation? Because they're going to happen. Negative things are going to happen. Negative situations are going to happen. But how are you handling it? So next time you're in traffic and you get cut off and you handle it really well, good job, self. You handled that great. Right? And it's okay to champion yourself, but pay attention to when you're handling things well, and just work on that overall self-love, because in the end, you're just a human. You're just a person. Today, you have a certain set of skills that you're using to get you through your day and whatever that might mean, whether that's waking up in the morning and making sure everything's ready for not just yourself. Maybe you have other people, like you have children. I have children. Luckily, they're old enough and they're kind of taking care of themselves in the morning. But there was a time when I had to not just get me up, I had to get children up and lunches and make sure everybody has the clothes to wear and they're dressed. And did you brush your teeth? Did you put on your deodorant? Did you do your homework? Like all these things, right? And I can recall too, it seems we're going on a theme here today where children getting us all riled up, right? They are the source of so many emotions, positive and frustrating ones, right? But like you could get yourself all caught up when you get in that situation and start getting really frustrated, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe um, we're out of socks today or whatever, right? And you can start getting really flustered, like, but I've got to go and these kids and whatever, right? Or you can just say, all right, well, maybe starting tomorrow, we're going to start getting our clothes ready the night before so we don't have to do it in the morning, right? But you don't have to beat yourself up for today's minor failure. It's not an epic fail. It's not a permanent fail. It's just a momentary fail. And it's so important to love ourselves enough to say, I did do the best I could today. Tomorrow I can do better because I'm going to find a way to make this easier for myself and for the people that I love. And so you want to do that. And so it all starts with that self-love, letting go of judgment. And I also recommend a journal. We do love journaling. I have several different journals, one for um, keeping track of my thoughts and when I felt really positive, when I might have had some negative thoughts, like what were my triggers today? And so I can think back on like what was really going on in that moment? Why was I triggered, right? For the negative. But then also the journal I'm recommending that you all start is a journal of awesomeness. And this is where, and it could be something really little, like I said, the traffic, right? It could be something bigger, like I handled a difficult situation at work really well today. I stayed calm, I stayed cool. I left the situation feeling like everybody felt heard and understood, and we found a win win solution to a problem that came up. Write that down because it's important to be able to look back when you are having some negative times and be like, okay, I wasn't, I'm doing all right. Maybe this one moment today wasn't so great, but overall, I can handle situations really well. And so it's important to champion yourself and keep that journal of awesomeness going. I would say try to write 2 to 3 things a day. I'm awesome because I made my coffee and I made my son his or chocolate milk. I'm awesome today because I packed a healthy lunch for me and I took a snack to share with a friend. I'm awesome today because um, I let 3 people in front of me in traffic today. True story. Busy today. I'm awesome today because, like I said, something came up at work and I handled it really well. The situation came up and I was calm. Keep those notes and keep it running so you can reflect on it. And when you're doing that, when the little things happen, you're like, you bounce back faster. And so that's why the positive affirmations, huge thought changer, right? When those things come to us, our thoughts about ourselves are so powerful. And so I think it's super important to, yes, champion yourself. Um, yeah, we don't want to place too much weight on the opinions of others because I know accolades feel great, criticism feels crappy. But ultimately, if you can walk away from both situations feeling the same, like, okay, thank you for the observation or whatever, and don't say that out loud. Somebody will probably slap you. Um, but but internally, it should mean the same thing. Like, oh, somebody noticed something I was doing, and what can I take away from that? Great. It's an opportunity to continue doing what I'm doing, or maybe change something a little bit. But that's it. It doesn't change who you are or your value or your worth. It just might change some of your future behavior for the positive, hopefully. So that's
That
pretty much what I have on
that
the positive affirmations.
that's
Powerful things.
that's perfect. And I do keep a journal of positive uh, um, or my awesomeness every
Yes.
day. Yep, I have gratitudes, and then I started adding on at least three reasons why I am awesome every day. And they don't have to be big things, but I
Yeah.
think it is really important for us to be positive about ourselves. And everything that we need is inside of us. It's the all of the negative thoughts that is what's holding us back, because the awesomeness is there. We just put covers on top of it. And so let's start peeling back all those layers and let the awesomeness shine through, because we all are awesome. Everyone out there is awesome.
Thank you.
They just don't always know it. And so we'll wrap it up with a little bit on mindfulness and meditation. And I'm going to say, like, I used to think foo-foo of the meditation thing, right? Because and it took me a long time to really take meditation seriously, and use it as a tool, because I think it gets a connotation of kind of this people that are have talking to spirits and other things. So I don't know what it is, but there's something about the meditation. But it is a practice that we all is recommended for all of us. It's something that can help us to cultivate our awareness and clarity. And mindfulness is the same thing. It's about really paying attention to the thoughts and being non-judgmental about it. When something happens, say, yeah, this happened, and let it go, and not kind of stew on it and criticize yourself, as Deb was saying. And so if you can imagine that your mind is a lake, and when you have all these thoughts and emotions running around and swirling around, your surface is going to be choppy and disturbed with all these thoughts. And so what mindfulness and meditation does is it actually helps to calm your mind, so you can have like a lake that has a water like a glass surface. And then you can actually have the stillness, allows you to see things more clearly without distortions. And then you'll have less stress. And here's the other one: overthinking. So here's some of the things that why meditation matters. It is a great stress reducer, and they have done scientific studies, and it is scientifically proven that meditation and mindfulness reduces your stress levels. It calms the mind like the glass on the lake, and reduces our production of stress hormones. It can help us increase and improve our focus and clarity, because when we have a calm mind, we see things that we don't see when we're all over the place and we got all these thoughts running through our head. It helps us with emotional regulation, like me with my anger. Just bring it down, stop thinking about it, and then you have a better light to things. And it helps us just to recognize the emotions and then have some stability. It enhances our well-being, just basically our overall well-being, gives us a sense of inner peace and contentment. It can help to improve our mental health and reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. And I think I mentioned this before, it can help us with our relationships. We can have better relationships and have better interactions with other people. And so I would love to share meditation with you, but we are definitely over time for that. So I'm just going to give you some practical things that you can think about to get started. Number one, start small, a few minutes a day. You do not need to go like an hour or whatever, but just start. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And you can gradually increase your duration as you become more comfortable with your practice. Create a routine, schedule it for a certain time of day so that you can do it consistently. Maybe that would be the morning, or maybe it's before bed, but have a time for it. Find a quiet space. I mean, I do my meditation on my bed. That's it, but that's my space for my meditation. You can have a little quiet corner of your room, or if you're lucky enough to have a whole room you can dedicate to meditation. Wow, in my next house, that's what's going to be. Focus on your breath. So just actually focusing on your breath, or you can also focus on your heartbeat, will quiet your mind. And so this is a good way to, like I said, I was kind of feeling like the emotions were getting away from me. So I just did some deep breaths. And when you focus on that, you're quieting your mind, because you can't do two things at once. Uh, Practice mindful observation. So take a moment to observe your surroundings mindfully. What are the sights, the sounds, the smells, without judgment. And one of the things you can do is practice it at a certain time of day. Like one place is when you're eating. Have some mindfulness about what you're eating, how much you're eating. Are you eating those healthy vegetables and fruits and stuff, or are you eating, I don't know, potato chips, uh, or something like that? So be mindful about what you're eating. You could have anything you can be mindful about. You can use a guided meditation. So you can go on YouTube and just search on 5-minute guided meditation, and you'll find some great meditations. You can do 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever time you have. Just start and be patient and kind with yourself. I know when I started, I always thought that I wasn't doing it right. There wasn't getting any value out of it. It just seemed like weird. Just lying on my bed, listening to somebody talk about, space and focus on your breathing. But it's like anything else. These are exercises for your mind. And just like when you go to the gym to strengthen your muscles, you do not come out of the gym with guns the first day. You have to work at it. So it might feel challenging at first, but as you practice, you will see things change. And the other thing I just want to say is it's a personal experience. How I meditate and how I feel and what comes up for me in my meditation, I'm going to guess is different than what happens and how Deb feels on her meditation. And so there's, again, don't judge. There's no right or wrong. It's just about doing it. And you will find that overall, over time, you will see great rewards if you do the work.
Excellent. I love it. It's true. I used to feel the same way about meditating. I thought it was this big whole thing that I could never figure out until I realized it wasn't about that. It was about being present and being present really with yourself. And yeah, so a great practice. Thank you for sharing those. So I am so glad that everybody that joined us or is watching this did take the time to do that. And we will be back next week exploring a little bit more about our thoughts and how to master our lives through our thoughts and our emotions. And then, big exciting news, we're going to be running the Create a Life You Love workshop again June 15th at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a Saturday morning, so we hope to see some of you there as well. So thanks, Debbie, for another great chat on mastering our thoughts, because I think it's super important.
Thank you. It's such a great and important topic. And just pick one thing from what we said and get started, and you will see where it takes you. I don't have to, I want to.
Huge mind shift. Love it. Good night,
See
everyone.
you next week.